Good evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel, where you get your daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Leon Jones, and this week is Infrastructure Week. Now, we talked about construction management, then we flipped over to construction inspection, then I talked about civil engineering. Now, I was supposed to talk about architecture. However, I'm going to save that for next week. But one topic that I want to get in tonight is constructability or green construction. And what is green construction? Now, the reason why I didn't do architecture is because a lot of architects, they're utilizing materials for green construction, materials that are recyclable, materials that don't cost a lot to produce, like bamboo. So when we talk about green construction, we're basically dealing with the environment. You know, a number of your buildings are getting LEED certified. That's capital LEED. They're getting LEED certified for maintenance and operation, energy efficiency. But what does it mean to be green? It means that you're dealing with the environment. And today, the environment is very important. And you'll hear words that are synonymous with environmental, like sustainability, recycling. A lot of materials can be used over and over again. So tonight, we'll talk about green construction. Now, what is green construction? Now, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to tell you what green construction is. So basically, it doesn't matter when it comes to building. And what I mean by that is when we deal with materials, let me put it out there like that. Before you build anything, you have to plan it. You have to define what materials you're going to use. You have to cost out everything. So once you have the design in place, then it does matter what you're building and how you're building it. But you need to know what type of materials you're going to use, what's going to be cost effective. Are these buildings going to last for a while? It is important that you must understand that when we deal with green, again, we deal with the environmental side of everything. In fact, when you're on a construction site, you will go around and you'll see a bunch of what we call geotextile fence. You'll see silk socks. You will see bags in all of your stormwater areas. That's to keep sedimentation from getting in the stormwater, then eventually going out into the creeks and rivers. And what is important about green construction is we also want to preserve the wildlife. There are a number of animals that are on the endangered species list. I know in Pennsylvania, there was a box turtle. And when we had box turtles on site, we had to shut down the site for a little bit because we did not want to disturb the box turtles. This is why you have to have what we call BMP, best management practices. So again, what is green construction? Well, again, it doesn't matter that you paint a new building the color green. That's not green construction. Calling a building green actually says more about how it's built than how it looks. Again, when we deal with architecture, they base everything off of aesthetics. Now, when it comes to green construction, it basically refers to the philosophy and processes that make the creation and the usage of the built environment as friendly to the natural environment as possible. So basically from the design stage to assembly to the functionality of the structure upon completion. Green construction focuses on reducing negative impacts to the planet and adding more positive effects. We're dealing with nature, we're dealing with green. Now, of course, when we build anything, we're going to deal with construction. That's why construction is a necessary part of modern life, because humans need homes to live in, schools to learn in, businesses to work at, and of course, you need to drive on roads to get to your homes, your businesses, and your schools. So any construction will have some inevitable impact on the environment. Again, any construction will have some inevitable impact on the environment. So the reason why we are talking about the environment, because we have a global emphasis on sustainability. There's that word I told you about, sustainability. So it is the responsibility of the construction industry to take steps to both minimize their own footprint in raising a new building, as well as designing that building to operate in a sustainable way for many years to come. Again, in the construction industry, when you deal with contractors, it is the contractor's responsibility to take steps so they can minimize their own footprint in raising a new building, as well as designing that building to operate in a sustainable way for many years to come. And when we talk about years to come, what is it going to cost to maintain that building over a life cycle? So when we deal with green construction or sustainability, it is the answer to that call, and it is rapidly growing aspect of the industry. Green construction is the answer to the rapidly growing aspect of construction. So here are some of the new processes and innovations that are part of the green construction movement. Again, let's keep designing with the environment in mind. And this is where your architects come into place. So the first step in design, we deal with architects and engineers. Now, what do? They basically work to create blueprints and plans for the new building and the property that it stands on. It's very important, because when architects and engineers put together specifications, they must put specifications that are going to have some, what we call BMP, some best management practices. What are they going to do when it comes to sustainability? Because again, as I mentioned before, the environment, the naturally built environment, that's all become a part of construction. And when it comes to building anything, you want to have nature in mind for the aesthetics, but also you want to be environmentally and energy efficient as well. You want to practice taking care of the planet. And the reason why you want to take care of the planet, because if you are environmentally sound, you can reduce a lot of the health hazards when it comes to human beings. So again, when architects and engineers work to create blueprints, well, they also talk about where the layout of the building is going to be and the outward appearance of the building and all of the systems and components that make up the structure. And when they do the plans or create the plans, all the components, they're sketched out and they're prepared to be put into action. So when you deal with plans, designs, they're going to change. Something is going to be added in, something is going to be taken out. This is why you sketch everything out. And then you get with a team of architects and engineers to design the components that are going to make the building safe, as well as the aesthetics of a building. But both, again, architects and engineers are going to have in mind sustainability or green construction and best management practices. So this design what we call, with the environment in mind, is the first stage. The design stage is always the first stage. So the design stage is one of the most important for green construction. Why? Because this is where decisions are made about what type of features should be included in a new project and the sustainable steps to take to execute the build. Now, everything from the electrical and water systems inside to the landscaping outside can have a hand in the green status of a building, and the designers are the ones who create the instructions for the builders. Now, that being said, we're dealing with green or sustainable building. And as I move on, very important that you understand LEED and must understand materials. What type of materials are going to be used for buildings? What type of components are going to help buildings become energy efficient? And this is where we get into our next topic, environmental architecture. So when we deal with environmental architecture and environmental design, those are actually the top green degrees offered by colleges and universities nationwide. And I say that because today's students, particularly your millennials and your Gen Zs and maybe some of your Gen Xers, they hold the environment as one of the top concerns for the future. So when you deal with the environment with today's students, many of them are pursuing careers in sustainability. So as more designers receive training in green architecture, that influence will continue to fuel the steps toward a greener construction industry. And also, we deal with what we call renewable energy as well, power grids. And one thing about green energy or renewable energy, we have to take a step back and look at all of the critical types of infrastructure like transportation and power. Now, as I said before, we talked about design. Now, I'm going to talk about using and recycling sustainable materials. Now, one of the aspects of the construction industry that has the biggest negative impact on the environment is the processing of building materials. So creating the wood, steel, concrete, and other materials used in construction can cause deforestation, pollution, carbon emissions, and other harmful effects. So to minimize this impact, green construction can look at the materials they use and how they are sourced, processed, and disposed of to make more environmentally friendly choices. So a building could be built with more eco-friendly natural materials instead of heavily processed or potentially toxic ones. And another option is to use higher quality materials to reduce the need for frequent repairs or replacements. And I say that because if you bring some material that is toxic and you got to take it out, you may have to bring in machinery like a backhoe. Now, those machines use fuel and they also emit pollutants in the air as well. It's just like if you're on a crowded highway in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York or any other big city. Look at how much smog is produced. This is what individuals are talking about going green. This is why electric cars are coming into play. Now, of course, there's a lot of money in green energy as well. Everything about green, when it comes to emissions, is still being studied. Yes, batteries, they're very expensive for electric cars. Now, that's a different subject. Right now, I'm talking about green construction. So, when we deal with construction, teams who work in construction can also recycle materials that have been saved from demolished buildings or scrapped as unused components from other projects. Many metals are durable and can be reused or recast for new buildings because they will reduce the heavy impact of extracting more materials from the earth. Concrete and other materials can be recycled. Let me give you an example of a recycled material. When you're out there on a highway, and I have inspected paving projects. Now, what they do for a paving project, they come in with what we call a milling machine. Now, what that milling machine does is it takes off an inch, 2, 3, or even 4 inches of asphalt. So once the material is extracted from the existing road, because what they're going to do, they're going to put new asphalt down. What do you do with that material that is being loaded into a truck by way of a conveyor belt from a milling machine? Well, number one, what's the name of the material that is coming off the road? It used to be asphalt. It's no longer called asphalt. It's what we call millings. Now, you're going to hear the term when it comes to road building and paving, RAP. RAP is recycled asphalt pavement. That's what RAP is. It's taking the millings from the road and they're being conveyed into a dump truck, taken off site, taken to a plant, and they're reused as pavement, as pavement. And they're reused for pavement, and that reduces cost of trying to get raw materials and produce pavement at a plant. When it comes to an old barn, you can take old wood and use it as well. You can take plastic and glass. Recycling is one of the greatest forms of utilizing materials for new buildings. Again, when it comes to many materials, particularly the metals are very durable. And again, they can be reused or recast for new buildings. And again, you don't have to extract raw materials from the earth. Concrete can also be recycled. Now, there's also prefabrication and smarter building processes. Now, the way a structure gets physically built can also have an impact on its environmental impact. Again, the way a structure gets physically built can have an influence on its environmental impact. So, modular construction is one building method that is showing promises resulting in going greener. So rather than a structure being fully built on site, modular construction involves using larger components that have been prefabricated or made in an off-site facility. So prefabrication allows for a more controlled environment to build on, which can result in less material waste, reduced energy consumption, and of course, higher quality builds. Now, prefabricated pieces such as wall segments can be transported to the construction site where they are assembled. With this type of system, modular construction can also speed up the on-site work of a project. Again, modular construction can also speed up the on-site work of the project while reducing potential disruption to the community. So modular construction and prefabrication are among the new ways of thinking about building that can drive the industry greener. Now, again, we've talked about design, then we've gone to recycling, then we talked about prefabrication, and now we're going to talk about incorporating alternative energy sources like renewable energy. So when we deal with green buildings often turn to cleaner alternative energy options as a means to power or partially power so they can power their operations. Now, for most buildings, an easy way to do this is through solar panels. Many modern offices and homes have solar panels installed on their roofs. Now, these panels can collect the sunlight exposed to the top of the building each day and help create electricity. Buildings with more surrounding property might have larger solar arrays set up on the ground adjacent to buildings. So even a few small solar panels can help create greener energy and reduce the fossil fuels and their emissions. Now, something else that we get involved with in the construction industry, HVAC is really important. This is where you install energy efficient fixtures. And remember, whether they're modern buildings or older buildings, they all have lights. But we're focusing on modern buildings right now because modern buildings have lights, HVAC units, running water, and other amenities that require power and resources. So for many of these, there are eco-friendly options that improve efficiency and reduce energy usage and costs compared to other options. So overall, when you go energy efficient, what you want to do is basically have a building that's going to reduce the cost of using energy, making that building energy efficient. So one example of this is windows. Thin windows that aren't well sealed can cause excessive heat transfer, meaning that HVAC systems need to expend more energy to maintain temperature control. So installing high quality double pane windows with a strong seal can reduce the unwanted heat transfer and energy usage. So what I'm saying is, if you have a single pane window and you're feeling a little draft that's coming into your house, that means you're going to emit heat. So you're losing heat. And the more heat that goes out the window, the more heat you have to use to heat up your house. So that is also money going out the window. So when you go to a double pane type of window, then you can keep that heat inside. That heat is no longer going out the window. And a double pane window is going to be a better seal to keep that heat from going outside, which the more heat you save, you don't have to utilize a lot of heat in the building. And something else, the orientation of your building. If you are oriented close to the sun in the winter or the summertime, because we're talking about heat right now, but you also have to talk about air conditioning as well. If you don't want to run your air conditioner, you can have something like an awning, or not many people use them anymore, but shutters, because you want to bring in cool air. You want to do it all naturally, and heat can be a natural resource if you utilize it right. So again, you have to maintain structures using double pane windows. And also, you can update your doors or upgrade your doors and insulation. So again, installing high quality double pane windows with a strong seal can reduce the unwanted heat transfer and energy uses. Again, installing high quality double pane windows with a strong seal can reduce the unwanted heat and transfer energy usage. Similar effects can be had by, of course, you have to upgrade the doors and insulation. Upgrade doors and insulation. Now, other examples of environmentally friendly fixtures include energy efficient light bulbs. Now, some energy efficient light bulbs, the light bulbs of old are actually bulbs and they have a filament in it. The filament can burn out. But you also have energy efficient light bulbs. They look like the little curly fries that you get at Arby's. Those are energy efficient light bulbs and they're fluorescent. They're very good. You also have automatic sensors to turn lights on and off when the room is not being used. That is a good system. You have, if you're in a public bathroom or a commercial building, You have toilets with variable flushing strengths. And you also have motion sensor faucets in bathrooms and kitchen. Again, motion sensor faucets in bathrooms and kitchens. Those sensors are okay. If you put your hand under a faucet, that sensor sees your motion and then it sprays water onto your hands. After you back your hands away, you don't have that water anymore. You also have soap dispensers like that as well, because those are put in there to help your building become energy efficient. And when it comes to any operation, it's all about saving money as well. So basically, overall, when it comes to accomplishment with sustainable building, the construction industry is going to make green standard or green construction the standard. And it's going to celebrate the progress and achievements currently, so it can be a big part of continuing to drive steps. So celebrating green accomplishments. So what I'm saying is this, so I'm not talking in circles here. As green construction becomes the standard in the construction industry, we're going to celebrate the progress and achievements on the path to sustainability. Why? Because that is going to become a big part of continuing to drive the steps for construction to become green. Now, of course, I just mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. You're going to have awards, honors, and unique certifications that will be used to acknowledge accomplishments in green industry by contractors, industry leaders, and the buildings themselves. Again, I already told you about one. The most well-known of these is LEED. Remember, I told you LEED. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And what that is a green rating and certification system that is administered by the U.S. Green Building Council. So by reaching various eco-friendly benchmarks, projects can be awarded LEED certified silver, gold, and platinum status. So when you get these certifications, they become a badge and honor. They become a badge of honor for your building. Again, these certifications become a badge of honor for a building and the teams who built it. Companies are striving to reach the highest levels they can. Why? Because they're going to push the boundaries for innovating new ways and using green construction for their buildings. Again, when it comes to these certifications, they become a badge of honor for a building and the teams who build it. Companies today are striving to reach the highest levels they can through pushing the boundaries and innovating in new ways. So, what does the future hold for green construction? What does the future hold? See, we're in it now, but you know the future can change. So, overall, I would say this: construction is one of the biggest sectors of the economy, and demand for new and renovated buildings and infrastructure will keep the industry busy for years to come. With such an important role in society, construction has a responsibility to be a leader in implementing sustainable practices and limiting the impact on the environment. So, as the long term effects of our actions become a greater focus, green construction will continue to grow and become a new standard. Again, when we talk about green construction, we're dealing with a philosophy and processes that make the creation and the usage of the built environment as friendly to the natural environment as possible. So from the design stage to the assembly to the functionality of the structure upon completion, green construction focuses on reducing negative impacts to the planet, and there are also going to be some positive benefits from green construction. So again, green construction is a good thing. I did a paper on bamboo, how they use bamboo in China for a number of their structures. It's a good resource. It's very durable. Again, the biggest promise I see with green construction is recycling. And when you recycle materials, you can use them over and over and over and over again. And that will also reduce construction costs because somebody has to pay another company or another contractor to get the raw materials out of the ground. And my favorite thing has always been recycling. I mean, when it comes to construction, the wrap material is very good. Again, you're just taking existing asphalt and you're making it new again. And then you can come back in 5 years, repeat the process again. You can go to an old farmhouse, take those 2x4s and you can retreat them. Now, is there some wood that rots? Yes. But if you can find some good wood from an old building, like a barn, I'd go ahead and use it. Because that's going to keep you as a contractor from having to buy the materials yourself. And see, what happens is when we deal with any type of construction, the cost is always passed down to the consumer. Because the contractor is going to be the middleman. The contractor is working for the client, which is the consumer. So you want to make sure that when you design something, you're going to design it with the environment in mind, but you have to make sure that it is the right material. The material should be environmentally friendly. Now, when it comes to sustainability, it's about the planet. You want to keep your wildlife going. You want to keep your waters from being contaminated, because even water can be used and reused, and there is an abundance of water. But a lot of us take advantage of it. We throw a lot of dirty materials in the water. We keep everything clean. And we have a clean planet. We can live a lot longer as well. Now, I do not believe in the environment when it comes to politics. I believe in it for the health reasons. As you hear a lot of the politicians, particularly on the left, and these rabid environmentalists, they're talking about going green so you don't build anything. Well, without development, electric companies can't grow because they need customers to pay the bills every month. But it's how you build your buildings. It's what materials you need to build your buildings. Because when it comes to the environment, I will say this, we're all socially responsible for it. So it's up to us as an individual in the construction industry of what we're designing and what we're building. Because when it's the environment in mind, we're all part of the environment. And what we all have to do is do our part to conserve it. That means proper designs, proper use of materials, and best management practices. Now that concludes this topic on green construction. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some political, news, and social content, you can check out my main channel called the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show. Now, the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show and QCIS are both on YouTube, both of these channels. Now, if you can't find both of those channels on YouTube, you can check out my Twitter page for the QCIS channel and the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show. Again, that's the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show. Now, For educational reasons and professional reasons, I put the QCIS channel on my LinkedIn channel because that channel is for individuals who are interested in the construction industry, and of course, my business, QCIS, and the videos that I'm producing so people would have an understanding of science, technology, engineering, and math. And once again, thank you for listening to the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening.